Hello and welcome to another ESO build guide. I'm Dying Legacy and this is the Dragonheart build. This is my main build. It's a stamina Dragonknight for endgame content as a damage dealer. This is a melee style build packing strong single target damage and strong AoE. This has been tested over many patches and it's built to last. This is a quick build guide. We'll be going over the race, attributes, Mundus stones, food, potions, gear, skills, passives and champion point slottables. The info will be minimal, so I'll only be going over what's necessary. However, do feel free to comment below if you'd like a full detailed guide or if there's anything I could do better. And why not subscribe to keep up to date with the channel? With the intro covered, let's go over the Dragonheart build. Starting with the race, it doesn't really matter what you use. Play for your enjoyment and play as you prefer, but if you're looking for suggestions, I would recommend either the Red Guard if you're looking for more sustain, the Khajiit for extra critical damage, or an Orc for extra weapon damage. For the attributes, we are putting 64 points into stamina, and for our Mundus stone, when we're doing solo content, we're taking the Lover Mundus stone for extra spell and physical penetration. When we're doing content as part of a group though, we'll be taking the Thief Mundus stone for extra critical rating. For our food, we are taking the Artaeum Takeaway Broth to increase our health recovery, max stamina and stamina recovery. You can pick these up at a guild vendor or make it yourself at a cooking station if you have the recipe. This can be rather expensive to get your hands on, in which case the cheaper option is the Dubious Cameronian Throne. The stats are slightly lower and it doesn't give health recovery, but it's a very small difference and overall it doesn't matter which one you use. For our potions, we are using the Essence of Weapon Power potions, which grant us Major Brutality, Major Savagery, Major Endurance, and restore some stamina immediately. We'll be using these for those longer and tougher fights. We can grab these at a guild vendor or we can make them at the alchemy station. If you haven't got any on you at the time, you can always pop an Essence of Stamina instead. This will give us Major Endurance and restore some stamina immediately. They might not be as useful as Weapon Power potions, but they are better than nothing, and they do drop from almost every mob in Tamriel, so your bag will probably be full of them. Moving on to the gear now, we are using 7 medium armor pieces on this build, all with the Divine's trait and a stamina enchant. For the jewellery, we are using the Bloodthirsty trait and weapon damage enchants. For our weapons, we are using dual daggers. For our front bar, our main hand will be Nirnhoned with a poison enchant, and our offhand will be charged with a fire enchant. For our back bar, we are taking a two-handed greatsword with the infused trait and a weapon damage enchant. Moving on to the sets themselves, starting with the body pieces, which are the chest, waist, hands, legs and feet, we're using the Arms of Reliquance set. This set is gotten from Cloudrest, and on veteran difficulty you can get a perfected version, which adds extra stamina to the set. It's a minor increase compared to the unperfected version, so it doesn't matter what version you use. The set itself gives us critical chance, minor slayer at all times, and our light and heavy attacks add a stacking damage over time effect to our targets that lasts for 5 seconds and stacks up to 10 times. If you haven't stepped into a trial or want to use something else, you can use Sovereign's Warband set, which is gotten in the DLC dungeon Frostbolt. This set adds critical chance and offensive penetration, and when you deal critical damage, your critical chance will increase for 5 seconds and can stack for 10 times. At max stats, you'll gain minor force. You could also go with Briarheart, which is gotten from Hrothgar Overland content, such as delves, world bosses, and public dungeons. You can also pick it up at a guild vendor, and Briarheart comes with critical chance and maximum stamina, and when you deal critical damage, your weapon and spell damage increases for 10 seconds, and during this proc you'll heal when you do critical damage. For our jewellery, our head slot and our shoulder slot, we are using the Pillar of Nirn set, which is gotten from the DLC dungeon Valkyrie Hold, which gives us max stamina, critical chance, and weapon and spell damage. And when you deal damage, you'll deal bleed damage to the target and enemies nearby, and causing them to take bleed damage for 10 seconds. We are not using a monster set on this build, instead we are using 2 Maelstrom daggers for our front bar weapons. These are gotten from the Maelstrom arena. There is a perfected version that drops from the veteran difficulty of the arena that adds extra weapon and spell damage. There doesn't really matter all too much as the DPS increase isn't very large, it's the effect we're most interested in, which is when we deal damage with Flurry, your single target damage over time abilities used within 4 seconds gain extra physical and spell damage. If you haven't done the Maelstrom Arena yet, you can use the Agility Daggers, which will give us some extra max stamina. You can buy these off the guild store, or there is a small chance of getting them in the mail after a random dungeon. Lastly is the Maelstrom two-handed sword, which is gotten from the Maelstrom Arena, and we'll be using this on our back bar. There is a perfected version, like our daggers, from the veteran difficulty of the actual arena, which adds extra offensive penetration. It doesn't matter which version we use, as we are more interested in the base effect. just like our front bar weapons, which is when dealing damage with critical charge, we will cause enemies to bleed for over 7 seconds. If you haven't done the Maelstrom Arena yet, you can always use a two-handed agility sword, which again, like the daggers, will give it extra max stamina, and you can also buy them off the guild store, and there's a slight chance to get them in the mail after a random dungeon. That covers the gear, and now it's time for the skills. Starting with the front bar, first skill up is Venomous Claw, which is morphed from Searing Strike and found in the Ardent Flame skill line. This will deal poison damage to an enemy in melee range and will cause the enemy to take poison damage for 14 seconds. The damage from this dot increases over time, so don't spam this attack. Next is Rending Slashes, morph this from Twin Slashes found in the Dual Wield skill line. This will deal bleed damage and cause the enemy to bleed for 10 seconds and slows their movement speed. On to Noxious Breath next, which is morphed from Fiery Breath and can be found in the Ardent Flame skill line. This will deal poison damage to enemies within range, and they will continue to take poison damage over 14 seconds, and it will also apply Major Breach to the enemy's hit. We are also using Rapid Strikes, morphed from Flurry and found in the Dual Wield skill line. You'll deal 5 consecutive attacks that deal physical damage. The damage increases with every hit, and if you are using the Maelstrom daggers, your next damage over time ability used within 4 seconds will be stronger. Next is Barb Trap, which is morphed from Trap Beast and found in the Fighter's Guild skill line. This will set a trap at a target location that, when triggered, deals bleed damage and additional bleed damage over 18 seconds, and will also grant us minor force. Enemies who activate the trap will be immobilized for 2 seconds. For the ultimate on the front bar, we are using Flawless Dawnbreaker, morphed from Dawnbreaker and found in the Fighter's Guild skill line. You will deal physical damage to enemies in front of you and additional physical damage over 6 seconds, and after activating will increase our weapon and spell damage by 300 for 20 seconds. Next, we'll move on to our backbar skills, and first up is Stampede, morphed from Critical Charge, which is found in the two-handed skill line. You'll charge an enemy and deal physical damage to them and nearby enemies. This is always a critical strike, and you'll also leave an AoE under their feet for 15 seconds that deals physical damage. If you're using the Maelstrom two-hander, enemies will take extra bleed damage for 7 seconds. Next is Carve, which is morphed from Cleave, which is found in the two-handed skill line. You'll deal bleed damage to enemies in front of you and cause them to bleed for 12 seconds. Hitting an enemy again will increase the duration up to 30 seconds. This also gives us a damage shield. We're also using Consuming Trap, morphed from Soul Trap and found in the Soul skill line. This deals magic damage for 10 seconds, and if the affected enemy dies, it will fill an empty soul gem and restore magicka, stamina and health to us. Next is Flames of Oblivion, morphed from Inferno and found in the Ardent Flame skill line. This will cause you to fire a fireball at 3 enemies every 5 seconds and dealing flame damage. While slotted, you gain Major Prophecy and Major Savagery. We're also using Echoing Vigor, morphed from Vigor, which is found in the Assault skill line. This will heal us over 10 seconds. The ultimate on the back bar is Standard of Might, morphed from Dragonknight Standard and found in the Ardent Flame skill line. This will place a flag in front of you and deal flame damage for 20 seconds to any enemy standing in it. It will also apply Major Maim. If you or your ally stand near the flag, you'll take 15% less damage and also deal 15% more. An ally near the standard can also activate the Shackled Synergy, dealing flame damage to enemies and immobilizing them for 5 seconds. And that covers the skills. With the skills out of the way, I'm going to give you a very quick rotation before we move on to the passives. Now, for the rotation itself, starting on the front bar, we're going to use Rapid Strikes, followed by Venomous Claw, followed by Rending Slashes, followed by Noxious Breath, followed by Rapid Strikes again, followed by Barb Trap. We then weapons swap to our back bar and use Stampede, followed by Carve, followed by Consuming Trap, and then followed by Flames of Oblivion. That's the main rotation. However, one bit of information is that if you are just starting a fight, you'll want to use Carve twice. The reason for this is to extend the duration of Carve. So the first time you use Carve in the fight, use it twice. Every other time you do a circle of your rotation, just use Carve once, as you don't need to use any more than that, unless you're extending the duration of the bleed dot. Okay, and that covers the quick rotation. So we're going to move straight on to the passives now, starting with the class passives. First up is the Ardent Flame skill line. In here, we want to take Combustion, Warmth, Searing Heat, and World in Ruin. In the Dragonic skill line, we'll be taking Iron Skin, Elder Dragon, and Scaled Armor. We won't take Burning Heart as we aren't using any Draconic skills, and it gives us nothing without one slotted. And in the Earth and Heart skill line, we want Battle Roar and Mountain's Blessings. We're not using any Earth and Heart ability, so Eternal Mountain and Helping Hands is no use to us. We are using dual daggers, so we'll take everything in the dual wield skill line. These are Slaughter, Dual Wield Expert, Control Fury, Ruffian, and Twin Blade and Blunt. Next is the two-handed skill line. Again, we'll take everything. This includes Forceful, Balance Blade, Follow Up, and Battle Rush. We are wearing full medium armor, so we'll take everything in the medium armor skill line too, which are Windwalker, Improved Sneak, Agility, and Athletics. Next up is the guild passives, starting with the Fighters Guild. In here, we'll be taking Slayer, Banish the Wicked, and Skill Tracker. And next up is the Undaunted passives. In here, we'll be taking Undaunted Command and Undaunted Metal. Moving on to the racial passives, these are specific to your race. Grab everything. Have a quick read over them so you know what they do, just so you can understand the benefits and the advantages you have, and just so you understand your overall race a little better. And lastly, one more passive, which I would class as a necessary passive, and its medicinal use, which is found in the alchemy skill line. This causes our potions to last much longer and makes potions outlast their cooldown, so you can always have a potion active. And that covers the passives. So we're going to move straight on to the champion point slottables now, starting with the warfare tree. In the warfare tree, we want to grab Fighting Finesse to increase critical damage and critical healing. We want Deadly Aim to increase damage done with single target attacks. Thaumaturge to increase our damage done with damage over time effects, and Master in Arms to increase our damage done with direct damage attacks. In the fitness skill line, we want to grab Boundless Vitality to increase max health. We want to grab Fortified to upgrade our armor, and we want Rejuvenation to increase our overall sustain. We also want Bladed Renewal to increase that sustain even further. Now, onto the craft skill line. It really doesn't matter what you grab in here. As you can see, I myself have Disassembly and Treasure Hunter and Plentiful Harvest. This is because it's my main tune, so I use it for many different things. However, when you're doing just dungeons with this, I find it best really to just grab Treasure Hunter to increase the quality of items in a treasure chest, the Rationeer to add an extra 10 minutes of duration to our food. Liquid Efficiency is very handy, as this will give us a small chance not to consume a potion or a poison when we use it. And there's also Steed's Blessing, which will increase our out of combat movement speed. These are all handy for when you're doing dungeons in groups, or even if you're doing solos. But overall, it doesn't matter what you take in here. Take what you want, they're all handy. They do nothing much else. And that's everything for the champion point slottables. And it also covers the Dragon's Heart build. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful, or it gave you some ideas for your own builds. And if it did, why not like and subscribe? It helps me a lot, and I appreciate any support I can get. Plus, I do try to have a build up once a week if I can. And of course, if you've any thoughts, suggestions, or just want to have a chat, comment below. I do also stream on Twitch over at twitch.tv/dyinglegacy. We play a lot of ESO over there. We also do some variety content too, but we mostly play MMOs. I'm currently slogging my way through Final Fantasy XIV. I say slogging, I'm actually quite enjoying it. However, you will find me there mostly swearing and getting trolled for getting lost all the time. But yeah, that's enough shilling my Twitch. Anywho, thanks again, guys. You've been absolutely fantastic. I've been Dying Legacy, and until next time, stay awesome.